So I'm gonna be doing something a little bit different today. Trying out something new. I'm gonna just read it. Read it live here, and you get my live actual reaction to reading the chapter. So I'm excited. I'm ready. Let's get into it. Let's do it. Nico. No! No! Nico! No! Oh. Nico. We don't get Arthur. We get Nico! This is whack! Man, this is so whack. Okay. It is what it is, right? It is what it is. So let's... I'm so disappointed. I'm so just disappointed. But okay. Nico, all right. Something heavy was grabbing me, pinning me down. And it was dark, all so dark. Wetness clung to me, slicking my bare skin, while something soft was pressing against me like the tongue of some great creature, giving life and texture to the sickly sweet onion smell sticking to everything. I thrashed suddenly, certain that I was being devoured. A heavy blanket, which had been draped across my face, slid off the side of the bed and onto the floor. I gasped, sucking in the cold air that made me sputter and cough, rolling on my side. I meant to hang my head over the edge of the bed in case I got sick. I wasn't alone. Standing at the foot of the bed now, staring down at me with a look of disgust, was a groaner. A groaner, man. He'd be so pissed off. He does not like him at all. Cecilia lingered next to him, her expression caught between nervousness, dismay, and embarrassment. I'll take my leave then, Agrona says, his ruby eyes turning on Cecilia. No more delays. Cecil, dear, you leave in the morning. Uh-oh, so she's leaving. I wonder where she's going. Yes, High Sovereign, Cecilia said as she bowed deeply. I'm ready. Man, she's literally just a fucking slave to Agrona. It's woo, man, I bet she's powerful as shit. We don't know how powerful it is, but I bet she's powerful as hell. My thoughts moved like molasses as I struggled to understand what the two were saying. A spark cut through the sluggishness, however, bringing me back to the last thing I remembered, the regalia. My tongue was thick and unwieldy and my mouth desert dry. I moistened my lips and tried again. What happened during the bestowal? Agrona gave me an unreadable look, then stepped up to me and rested his hand on the top of my head. Uh-oh, is he gonna read his mind? I felt a thrill at the contact, but bitterness immediately oozed up, a counterpoint to the initial emotional response. Am I a hound that wags its tail at any sign of affection from his distant master? Yes, Nico. I don't know. No, as usual, Nico, Agrona said, his voice vibrating his chest. You have managed to fail in the most incredible fashion. Man. He didn't sneer the words. They weren't filled with bitterness or insult. It was said simply as a statement of fact. I had hoped perhaps your recent experiences would instill in you the sort of drive which you have always lacked. But alas, the new regalia is a perfect match for your talents. Wait, okay, so what is this new regalia? So he obviously figured out what this regalia is, and he's disappointed by it. His hand pulled away. His brows rose a fraction of an inch in a silent question, asking, do you have anything to say about that, idiot boy? The Nico slander just never ends. When I didn't reply, I seemed to confirm something Agrona had expected, because he nodded his head and then marched away, the ornaments in his horns jangling slightly. When the door clicked shut, Cecilia hurried forward to the edge of my bed, sinking down to her knees and pushing sweat-damp hair from her eyes. Or from my eyes. Oh, Nico, are you okay? You've been unconscious for a whole day. I rolled onto my back and focused on breathing so I didn't vomit in front of her. Fine. Her graceful fingers laced into mine, and she rested her head on the mattress and watched me silently. Agrona said, you're leaving. I ventured after a couple minutes of silence. Where is he sending you? She sat up, releasing my hand to brush a strand of gunmetal gray hair out of her face as she did so. I'm to lead the assault on Sense Clark. Oh, okay. So she's actually about to assault Sense Clark with Ceres. So she's going to be attacking Sense Clark. I wonder if Ceres actually knows about this already, is preparing for it. Or maybe this is interesting. I still want to see Gray, or not Gray. I still want to see Arthur in the meeting. That's so disappointing. Agrona wants me to put on a show of force to ensure this rebellion doesn't spread. I closed my eyes and bit back the bitter words that leapt to my tongue. It was the news I had been expecting, and yet I was still having trouble drawing breath. You sound pleased. I heard Cecilia shuffle as she got to her feet. Then the mattress shifted. I opened my eyes again to find her sitting next to me. Of course I'm pleased, she said, frowning. I've been training for this since I was brought to this world. It's finally a chance for me to prove to Agrona that I'm worth everything he's given me. Us. She met my eyes and held them. This is how we earn our lives back, Nico. I swallowed hard, my tongue felt swollen, and I was suddenly afraid I might choke on it. She leaned in closer, still staring deep in my eyes. But I'm not going anywhere without you, so rest up, all right? I'll be back in the morning, and then we're going to kill a traitor. I'm guessing talking about Ceres. With a big smile gracing her gorgeous face, Cecilia ran her fingers through my hair, then jumped off my bed. She stopped to look back from the doorway. Oh, I almost forgot. From a pouch, she withdrew the slightly rough sphere of the dragon's manicore. Ooh, she found a manicore. I don't think Agrona would have been very happy if he found this. You need to be more careful. Wow. So, okay. So even though she's completely loyal to Agrona, she realizes that she kind of cares about Nico more. And so she's willing to actually hide something from Agrona and not reveal it to him. Okay. So she has loyalty more towards Nico than Agrona. Or at least she's willing to hide things from Agrona. So okay, that's cool. Despite the astonishment, she smiled as she set the spear next to me. Then with a quick wave, she was gone. I blew out a gusting, frustrated breath. Shit. A few hours, that was all the time I had to get ready. Cecilia was going to war, and I'd be right beside her, protecting her. A dark laugh bubbled up, unbidden, from within me. How exactly am I going to do that? I don't fucking know. Bro, you literally passed out, been out for a whole day. You don't even know how strong you are now compared to what you were before. So how much help will you actually be able to give is what I'm thinking. I let my eyes drift shut again, and then shot upright as if on a spring. Idiot, I cursed myself, jumping out of bed. Mana poured out of my weakened core, empowering the new regalia that rested across my spine. Yeah, so what is this new regalia? What can you do? I didn't know what to expect, which was an odd sensation in itself. Normally, the officiants, I think that's how you say that, would explain the rooms, but from what little I could pull from my foggy memory, not frog, they hadn't known what my regalia was. It was something new, something that matched my talents. Yeah, that's what he said. I thought bitterly, the words sounding in Agrona's voice. The light of my chambers shifted as the regalia activated. It was a subtle thing, hardly noticeable at first, like clouds slowly creeping in overhead while the lighting artifacts activated in the street. I followed these new points of brightness as I scanned the room. So here, okay, let me tell you what I'm thinking. Is his new regalia gonna be able to see mana, or maybe to be able to see ether due to the effect of the sphere? You know, her core, Sylvia's core. Is it going to be something like that, or maybe it might be something different, and it might have something to do with, you know, his new mana core that Cecilia had rebuilt for him. So that's my prediction. I followed the new points of brightness as I scanned the room. The walls, floor, ceiling, furniture, everything mundane within the room seemed dull and shadowy, While the lighting artifacts glowed more brightly, there was a subtle shine to the metal knob and lock of my door, but curiously no glow at all from the dragon core. So everything was glowing, but the dragon core wasn't glowing. Okay. I picked the sphere up and rolled it around in my hand, expecting it from multiple angles, but it was dim and dark. This seemed strange to me since something as small and inconsequential as the imbued quill on my writing desk. So anything that has mana imbued within it, it shines brightly, it looks like. But the core is dull. So maybe that means that it doesn't have any mana? Okay, let's keep reading. This seems strange to me since something as small and inconsequential as the imbued quill on my writing desk burned in my altered perception, as did the sending parchment I collected for ordering some of the materials for my new artifact. As my mind touched upon the staff, I hurried to the door into my workspace and opened it. Inside, it was much the same, except there. All the items arrayed across my workbench glowed with various potency. It was more than a visible sensation, though I could feel them, almost as if they were connected to me. That's interesting. Normally you just see the mana, but it doesn't show as like mana particles for him. He can just see it shining, but he said it's like he's connected to it. So can this motherfucker like influence or move things that have mana? I don't know. Connected to me and to each other. Each magic item, and even those that were not yet magical but had the capacity for being imbued, stood out to my senses. Glowing most brightly of all in this altered form of perception was the charwood branch itself. The charwood branch. Is that some of the materials that he had to get used? I don't know. Inset with a single fitting, the silver metal of the fitting was dull against the bright black wood. On the table, set aside for further experimentation, was a collection of different fittings molded from a different alloy. These burned brightly. Curious, I set down the core and picked up a fitting. Nothing changed. As I moved it closer to the twisted branch, however, both sources of this connection shifted, but the change was less a glow and more a vibration. There was something shared between them, and attunement. I think that's how you say that. And then with a crashing, the world shifted, or the world shifting realization. I knew what my regalia did, and a wide grin broke across my face. Okay, wait. Let me go back for a second. As I moved it closer to the twisted branch, however, both sources of this connection shifted, but the change was less a glow and more a vibration. Okay, so it shifted when it got, okay. There was something shared between them, an attunement. And then with a crashing, world-shifting realization, I knew what my regalia did, and a wide grin broke across my face. Something that matches my talents indeed. What the hell is it? Grabbing the specialized carving tool in one hand and holding firm the staff base in the other, I set to work, knowing I had only a few hours to make myself ready. Okay, so what is he going to do? We'll see. Okay, so now we're transitioning. The sun's light had only barely turned the horizon gray-blue behind the distant mountains when a knock came at my door. I ignored it at first. So engrossed in my work, I had forgotten the reason for its urgency. Okay. So yeah, he's like upset. Okay, so time's passed on, and now he's, it's been some hours later. The knock came again, louder and more insistent, and time and space coalesced inside my mind, bringing me back to reality. Come in, I shouted from the workbench, certain Cecilia had come to collect me for our mission to Seth Clark. No, bruh! She's left you there so you can get better, and she's preparing to go out. Like, okay. The door opened and then closed again, and I heard her soft footfalls cross to the inner door. I'm sorry, Nico. Where are your clothes? Have you rested at all? I looked down at myself. When I had woken from my bestowal, I had been stripped down to my briefs. Only now did I realize I had been so engrossed by my regalia and the artifact I was creating that I hadn't even dressed myself. Here, look at this, I told her, too excited to care about any of that. Oh, so it was Cecilia. Okay. Grabbing her hand, I pulled Cecilia to the workbench and grinned proudly down at my creation. Where a twisting branch had laid before, now there was a smooth and polished staff of purest black. Okay. The head of the staff flared outward subtly, and where it widened, 4 gems had been inset into the charwood, as emerald as green as a viper's eyes, a sapphire bluer than the deepest depths of the ocean, a topaz bright as a flash of lightning, and a ruby rich as crystallized blood. The trueness of color was important, as was the purity of the gem, the cleanliness of the cut, and the strength of my intention when each gem was set. That was what my regalia did. Wait. Let me reread this real quick. The trueness of color was important, as was the purity of the gem, the cleanliness of the cut, and the strength of my intention when each gem was set. That was what my regalia did. It connected my mind to the truth of the materials that I worked with. I could see, feel, even taste the way the different materials fit into the world. So does this mean that he has a better understanding of materials and what they do and how they fit, so that way he can better like understand and know, like, okay, here's what I need. I need this specific material, and I can use this to do this. And if I combine this material with this material, then I can get this. This is actually really cool. This is actually really cool. Like, this is actually perfect. Like he said, this is perfect for Nico, because that was one of the things I wanted to understand, was that why wasn't he more creative, inventive, like how he was in the past? And so now he actually, it's like being an engineer or something like that, right? And you're able to immediately recognize what material you need. Like, you can go into the woods or go into the wild and be like, oh, I need this material of rock or earth, and this will be able to do this, or this is a conductor of that. And like, you'll be able to discover new materials that was never been tested before. This is actually really perfect for Nico. That's cool. That's cool. I like this. I like this. Okay. So I could see, feel, and even taste the way different materials fit into the world. But that was just the beginning. Okay, let's find out more. I was certain the more advanced and powerful a rune was, the harder mastering it became. Right. This isn't like the ability to do this with like a crest, because you know it goes mark, then crest, then emblem, and then regalia. So this is literally the max. This is a regalia. So we knew that I forget Rat, his name. I think it was Rat. His regalia allowed him to use, I believe it was sound, to literally invade people's nervous system to have them freeze. Like, it's, so what this dude's regalia can do, let's find out more. Okay, this is cool. This is cool. The harder mastering it became, but the greater the results. But the greater the results. With time, practice, and patience, I could only begin to conceive of what would be possible with the regalia. It do? So he was zoning out. Sorry, I asked, realizing that Cecilia had been speaking. It's beautiful. What does it do? She repeated, eyeing me wearily. I lifted the staff, feeling the nearly imperceptible networks of glyphs, runes, and connective elements that had been carefully scored into nearly every inch of the charwood surface. Taking it in both hands, I imbued mana directly into the staff. My mana was drawn across the surface via the circuitry of silver inlaid into the invisible grooves before being absorbed into a specially designed mana crystal hidden between the 4 visible gems. Cecilia's eyes followed the trail of mana, and once again I was amazed by her enchanted senses. In part, the design of the staff was intended to shroud his abilities. The design of the staff was intended to shroud his abilities. Yeah, because you want to keep it a secret from Agrona and stuff, right? After all, it would be a poor amplifier of my power if it had also gave away exactly what I was doing. Also, this is going to be like something that he's... Okay, so this is going to be something that he can use in like battle. And so that way people won't be able to know what he's doing before he does it. Okay. Despite this, however, Cecilia had no trouble following the mana through its journey. Around the staff's head, the atmospheric mana began reacting to the mana imbuing the staff. I could sense it, but I knew she could see the individual particles being drawn into the respective gems. It's amazing, she muttered, her fingertips stressing out towards the wood but not touching it. The purified mana within the internal crystal gives shapes to the magic, which then draws from the stored atmospheric mana to materialize as an elemental effect, becoming a spell. I'll have to reread this. I said, pride swelling within my chest. It was the dragon core that gave me the idea for the structure, but I couldn't have reformed the mana crystal without the regalia. Here, let me show you. Although the staff had been charged for less than a minute, it had enough mana for a single spell. Through the connective circuitry, I could still feel and manipulate my stored mana. I shaped it into the spell I desired. The gem flashed, and a whirling jet of hissing steam billowed from the staff, out my open window and off into the distance. That was water, fire, and air mana, she noted with some curiosity. Wait, bro! He can use the mana to create different elements, so he can literally start manipulating like all four of the basic elements. Can this motherfucker use that staff to manipulate the deviant elements? Bro, bro. I don't know. The gem flashed, and a whirling jet of hissing steam bellowed from the staff out of my open window and off into the distance. That was water, fire, and air mana, she noted with some curiosity. With this, I can hone my own spells the way they do in Decathlon, I said, breathless with excitement and the flush of victory. Shape them however I want without relying only on my runes. Okay. And my grin widened. I can utilize all four standard elements. That is crazy. That is dope. That's dope. Perhaps it was my imagination, but something dark passed over Cecilia's face for just an instant. Then she was grinning with me, her hands on mine around the staff. Why was something dark running across her face? This is really amazing, Nico, but she hesitated, and something squirming and hot wriggled around in my stomach. Is now really the best time to be experimenting? What? We're going to war. What if? Her words trailed off and she bit her lip. What? I asked, ice now seeping out from the hot thing warming through my guts. Can't you see I did this for you? Oh no, he's thinking this. Can't you see I did this for you? And this is her. Your core is still recovering, she said finally. I don't want you to get hurt by pushing yourself too hard. What if the staff fails? What if it hurt you somehow? Or it doesn't work like you hope? Bruh. He literally spent hours to create this shit. He is literally an artificer. Like, he experiments. That's what he does. So this is gonna be a shot in the gut. He's gonna be disappointed. Like what the fuck? Like, I've been spending all this time making this stuff. This is gonna be for you. Which, stop being a fucking simp. Make it for yourself. Do it for you, Nico. Do it because you want to be stronger. Do it because you want to be better and not be used by a grown-up or having to rely on him. Do it because of you, not because of her. God damn, where's your self-respect? Anyway, and then here she is. She's just like, oh, maybe if you get hurt, I don't want you hurting yourself. Let me take care of you, Nico. No, that's not how this works. Anyway, yeah, and this is him. Don't you have any faith in me? I asked, my voice coming out thin and painfully whining. Her fingers closed hard around my hands. Nico, now isn't the time for this, she said firmly. You brought me here. Now let me do my part so I can get us home, okay? This is wrong, I wanted to say. I was wrong. Yeah. Okay, I said instead. I'm ready to go. She looked me over for what felt like a very long time. Then the shadow of a smile broke the tension. You should probably put on some clothes first, though. After quickly dressing in dark battle robes, I was whisked through Tigran Kalem without truly registering where we were going. My excitement had melted into melancholy, and I had found myself drifting within a dreary fog. A portal was ready for us. Cecilia exchanged words with a handful of officials and high-ranking mages, but I didn't take any of it in. Then they were activating the Tempest Warp, and we flitted across half the continent in an instant. I blinked several times as we appeared under the bright early morning sun, which wasn't hidden by the mountains in Sesklar. It took a moment for our surroundings to come into focus. The receiving platform was at the heart of a sprawling garden. Large bushes, small trees, and dozens of type of flowers surrounded us. The air was heavy with sea salt. It made for a strange transition from dark depths of Tigran Kalem. I had expected a war camp, soldiers surging through the streets, destructive artifacts arrayed towards the massive shields conjured by Ceres. Also, she's got shields. Okay. As my eyes adjusted, I saw the shields in the distance. Wow. But how? How could she warp? Wait. Let me go back. As my eyes adjusted, I saw the shields in the distance. Wow. But how? How could she warp an entire domain, or even half of one in such, or even half of one in such a thing? So he's talking about Ceres, I'm thinking. Cecilia stepped down from the raised platform we'd appeared on and started beelining for the garden's exit. Over her shoulders, she said, "Agrona only has theories at this point. I'm relying on you to discover the source of this power." So now she's relying on him to discover the source of her. So yeah, with his regalia, he can figure out how things work and be able. That's really fucking crazy. Like, he can figure out how things work, what is actual use for, so he can know exactly what to attack or what to pinpoint in order for him to fuck it up. So if you got some shield, he can figure out how it all works and be like, "Oh, I need to damage that," and then that's going to cancel all of it. Man, this is really cool. His regalia is really useful, especially for him. So I'm relying on you to discover the source of this power. The melancholy I had felt only moments before faded as my mind set to work, considering the implications of Ceres' creation. But it just didn't make sense. Even with a mountain of mana crystals, it wasn't possible to store enough energy to maintain such a colossal conjuration. Is this shield really that fucking large? Crazy. And even then, charging the crystals would require more mana than could possibly be maintained, no matter how many mages she had working in concert. The gears continued to spin as Cecilia led us towards the shield. As we approached, it became more clear that the barrier had split the city cleanly in two. Behind the transparent bubble of mana, steep cliffs rose several hundred feet into the air. Soldiers and mages were busy at work on that side, but the streets were seemingly empty and quiet outside of the shields. "Where are our soldiers?" I asked Cecilia. She didn't look at me as she answered. "Forces are being gathered outside the Rosier? I don't know how you say that. And all civilians who live within a mile of the barrier have already been sent away." "What are you looking for?" Her turquoise eyes were jumping rapidly across the shield's surface, like someone speed reading a scroll. The seams stitching this spell together, as if from nowhere. A gust of wind grabbed me and lifted me off the ground. Cecilia flew ahead of me, following the curving arc of the barrier. Those on the other side had taken notice. Indecipherable shouts rang out from a dozen different sources, and those closest to the shielding began falling back. My stomach flipped, and I worried I might be sick again, though I had been able to fly myself before Gray destroyed my core. It wasn't the same as being carted around like an infant with someone else's magic. Yeah, so she's carrying him off. She's using her wind magic to carry him. I can't say that I enjoyed it in the slightest, even with Cecilia, but I kept silent and let her consider the barrier. So here's what I'm thinking. Last we saw, this crazy ass overpowered chick Cecilia was able to steal mana from the barrier that or the atmosphere and the barrier and artifacts back during the Victoriad, and she was able to use it to, reform Nico's core. So shouldn't she be able to, just steal the mana from the barrier and then boom, the barrier is gone? That's what I'm thinking. After a handful of minutes had passed in the stationary silence, I felt a familiar mana signature approaching from the other side of the shield. A long figure flew down from the cliff tops, moving fast. In a moment, she was before us, hovering just on the other side. Seris. Oh, okay. So Seris actually showed up. Seris is here. Okay, I'm excited. Man, Seris is one of the most interesting characters to me that we don't really know a whole lot about. That's like Team Arthur, right? So I'm really curious what she got to say, man. All right. The legacy. I was starting to wonder what was taking so long, she said, her voice only slightly muffled by the mana between us. Is Sovereign Orloth still alive? Cecilia asked, back, her demeanor entirely calm. I found myself staring at the fine elven features she inhibited and wondering where this poise came from. We were a very long ways away from the training rooms of Taegrim Kalin, and she was largely untested. Facing Seris was unlike anything Cecilia had done in either of her brief lives. So why wasn't she afraid? Man, I mean, she's not afraid because she's been manipulated. That's what I think. I think that she's not afraid because her mind has been manipulated. That's what I think. Seris flashed us a weary smirk as she said, actually, he is with us at this very moment. He is everywhere, in fact, still guarding Sesklar as he always has. Okay. I'm not interested in your word game, Cecilia said, and I sensed the mana all around us tremble. Drop these shields, order your men to stand down, and allow my forces entry. Come willingly before the High Sovereign to face judgment, and he promised a swift end. The longer you drag out this farce, the longer he will do so with your death. Bruh, sounds like a servant to Agrona to me. Agrona's words, I thought, sensing him behind each syllable. His words from her mouth. I hate this. Surely there are 1,000 other messengers Agrona could have sent to threaten me, Seris said dispassionately. You aren't here just for this unpleasant conversation, are you? Because I have no interest in engaging in a battle of wits when my opponent arrives so poorly armed. Mana surged, a tempest of crushing, rending force from the clear blue. Cecilia reached out and clawed downward, and the mana formed the shield shook like castle gates being struck by a battering ram. If you won't bring it down, then I will. Cecilia ground out through clenched teeth. We flew closer. Cecilia pressed her hand against the barrier. The air thinned around us, and I struggled to draw breath. I felt helpless, not in control of my own body, and all I could was watch. I'd never sensed anything like this battle before. The world itself seemed to flex as Cecilia pushed in on the shield. The bubble warped, bending inward towards Seris. Listen, I will say this. Since Seris isn't really doing anything, she must have really high, confidence in this shield that it's not going to actually be broken down so easily. My attention caught on my ex-colleague. She didn't move, didn't flinch away from Cecilia's assault. Her scarlet eyes tracked every movement, every fluctuation of mana, but it wasn't weariness or fear I saw in that gaze. Seris was studying Cecilia, taking in and cataloging her use of mana, her strength. It was then I knew Cecilia wouldn't break the shield, not like this. Listen, man, Seris knows what she's doing, so let's go. But she wasn't backing off. Pressure built and kept building around us as she pulled mana from everywhere except the shield. Why isn't she pulling mana from the shield? What's stopping her? Let's find out. She couldn't control that mana. That much was clear, but I had no idea why. Cecilia, I called, then louder. Cecil! But she couldn't or wouldn't hear me. I reached out trying to grab her, but she was too far away and I was trapped. Cecilia, stop! I shouted again. Suddenly I was falling as the magic holding me afloat was withdrawn. I cursed as I hit the ground rolling. The butt of the staff strapped to my back cracked against my head. Like the fool, Lord, like the fool I was, I had nearly forgotten it was there. Ripping it free of its sling, I began channeling mana into it. There was no time to wait for a charge to build, so I immediately worked the mana into an air attribute spell, copying that Cecilia had done to make me fly. Okay. I didn't think about him doing that. That's cool. You know what? What if this motherfucker, let me just give you a speculation. What if this motherfucker is so dumb? He worked so hard on his invention in that staff, and he gets that shit stolen from him by like Ceres or somebody else. That would be the ultimate L, man. It would be the ultimate L. Ripping it free of his sling, I began channeling mentally into it. There was no time for him to wait to charge the build. Okay, Cecilia had done to make me fly. It worked. Soft cushions of air wrapped around my limbs and lifted me from the ground, and I shot back up to Cecilia's side. Her assault was flagging. Sweat was raining down her face. The depression she made in the shield was healing, strengthening, pushing her back. So if she is making, so any sort of damage that she's actually causing to the shield is actually healing itself. So that's interesting. I grabbed her wrist with my free hand. Her head ripped around and she glowered at me like some feral monster. Listen, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of him. Whenever he gets his emotions, or whenever you mention Gray, and Nico start, going through this rage and wanting to kill everybody and snapping at Cecilia and all that, she's just doing the same thing that he does. Her head whipped around. She glowered at me like some feral monster. Her teeth bared and her eyes blazing. I shrank back and something inside her snapped. The storm of mana faded away just like that. Her expression crashed into dismay as she stared at me, one hand over her mouth. Nico, I'm sorry. But I wasn't watching her. My attention was pulled to the knowing smile quivering on Sarah's lips. I flew close to Cecilia, muttering, "Not now." Then interposed myself between her and Ceres. "We didn't come here to hurl threats from the other side of this wall you've conjured," I said, as firmly as I could manage. "Many, many Alacrians will lose their lives in a war between Sesklar and the rest of Alacria. Ceres, why? Why lead these people to their deaths in a war you can't hope to win?" "This isn't a war, little Nico, but a revolution," came her quick reply. "And Agrona knows well enough that it certainly isn't Sesklar versus Alacria, but the people against the sovereigns." "What people?" I shot back, gesturing to the empty city behind me. "What rebellion? This height of foolishness." "You'd know all about it, wouldn't you?" she replied. "Your entire existence is formulated on the premise founded on foolishness. You two reincarnates have no understanding of what life is truly like in this world. To you, it's a playground, a game, a dream you'll wake up from one day." She wasn't smirking anymore. There was a heartiness to her features that made the hairs on my arms stand on end. "I know what he promised you, Nico, but I also know that he can't do it. He doesn't have that kind of power." Okay, so she's talking about the promise that he can create a whole new world for just them, and it can be however they like it. And they can go, Nico and Cecilia can go and live off and be, happily ever after together. And so she's saying to them, basically, Agrona can't do that shit. It's a lie. False promises. Her words went straight through me. I should have prepared myself, should have known better. But everything Cecilia and I were doing was so Agrona would send us back to Earth. Oh, so sending them back to Earth. Okay. To an Earth where we had a chance for a life together. A real life. As ourselves. Not as the forms we'd taken when reincarnating in this world. So they didn't even want to be in their form. So they wanted to go back to Earth in their previous forms? How the hell are they supposed to do that? But I've always feared it might be a lie. Ever since Cecilia's reincarnation had been completed, a doubt had grown. Agrona had barely been able to complete our reincarnations into this world. What had ever made me think he could so casually implant us back into another world? Next to me, Cecilia's expression faltered, but only for an instant. Liar, she said, breathless. You say anything to save your pathetic skin. You don't know Agrona, not the way I do. Bruh, you just got here. You don't know Agrona. Oh, God. He's more powerful than anyone you can imagine. And so am I. She was huffing now, and even I was taken aback by the viciousness within or with which she'd addressed Ceres. I promise you, little scythe, I'd rip this barrier down one way or another. And then a cloud rolled in above us, casting its darkness over Cecilia. I'll come for you. I'm disappointed, man. I'm disappointed. I wanted there to be Arthur versus Kezis. God, I was so hyped for this chapter. Shit. This chapter was all right. It was all right. That's it. That's all I'll give this chapter. It was all right. Well, if you made it all the way through here, I appreciate you. Let me know what you guys think about me just, live reading it like this. And I should have an actual review of the chapter. I'm going to reread this and actually make a review of the chapter. And yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys sticking it all the way through to the end of this video. And y'all have a great day. Peace.